Hey everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Indie Corner Radio. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got an awesome guest here today. He hasn't been on the show before, but I'm really excited to chat with him because we're going to get into something I don't think we've talked about on Indie Corner yet. Which is being a sales agent, which is not something you typically get to chat with somebody about. Please welcome John Thomas. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, so once again, like we don't usually get to talk about that because as far as I know, most sales agents probably keep to themselves a little bit. I kind
Yeah,
of imagine that.
yeah, a little bit. And you know what it is with me is I didn't really start out um with the goal of being a sales agent. I went to college and I actually went to college and got a degree in theater with a specialty in acting. I was trained by the same professors that trained Tony Shalhoub.
Oh,
Um
wow.
yeah, they
Look,
were like, yeah, he's like the only famous alumni from the University of Southern Maine.
hey, if you're gonna have one famous alumni, Tony Shalhoub.
Yeah, well, too bad my college pissed him off. So
Ooh.
that's another story. But yeah, so I wanted to be an actor, and I mean, I went into it trying on a lot of hats. I dabbled a little bit in special effects. I wanted to eventually, direct that type of thing. Then I ended up, well, first I just kind of fell in to the sales agent stuff. I broke into the industry by doing some small investments in like some micro budget movies, like Be My Cat, a film for Anne. That was one of the early ones I invested in.
Which one?
Be My Cat, a film for Anne,
Okay.
Romanian found footage movie, really, really well done.
See,
It's
found
actually
footage isn't my style, but I'm trying to expand my horizons and
if
watch more
you're
stuff this year.
are you into like art house horror?
Some. I mean, it depends, I guess.
Yeah, this one definitely would fall under art house, I think. It's a very interesting concept. I was immediately drawn to it when I saw it being posted about. Like I said, it's a Romanian film, but English language, and it's about this Romanian filmmaker uh, playing himself, basically, who sees the movie Dark Knight Rises and becomes obsessed with actress Anne Hathaway. uh, the title "Be My Cat," a film for Anne. So he basically um, records this video of himself talking to Anne throughout the movie, trying to convince her to come to Romania to be in his film. And to convince her of his directing talent, he has some local actresses that he has do some scenes, but things kind of spiral out of control. People end up dead. It's very, it's very, and the acting is amazing. This dude, real method actor, his name is Adrian Tofe. He literally lived as this character for like a month. Like he rented a separate apartment and he just like it was amazing. Like the actresses, they all did method acting too. And like the only way that like they would tell if he was like speaking as the actor, as his character, or as the director. If he was speaking Romanian, he was the director. If he was speaking English, he was his character.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. No,
Amazing
I
stuff.
mean, I could see people giving money to that or helping that out.
It never blew up very big, but it got some really solid reviews. One
Did Anne
website,
Hathaway see it though?
I do not know. I like to think she did.
I would
I
like to
would
think
love to
that a
know.
movie kind of all about her. At some point, somebody would be like, "Hey, did you know I made a movie and you're kind of like the star in a way about it, you know?"
It
Like,
basically it's I've thought of it in more recent years as kind of like a messed up horror version of Borat,
okay.
where he's obsessed with Pamela Anderson.
Yes, okay, yeah, I see that. So there's an well, I think they got Pamela Anderson for that
Yeah, they
movie.
did. Yeah,
Yeah, but
yeah.
see, they had a
Anne
little bit more
Hathaway
money, you know.
is not in this. No.
It would have been funny if like I don't know, they were able to get her phone number or something and call her and like that would be in the movie. But you know, obviously it's a little bit too much.
But
Um,
I anyway, getting back to your question, how I got into the sales agent stuff. Sorry for the tangent. But yeah, I had the Be My Cat film for Anne. There was one other movie. I'm not going to mention the movie because I don't want to give it publicity. The director is a thief. Um, so I'll just leave names unnamed there.
okay.
But I
It
will say
wasn't
that
me.
no, but my now business partner, Adam Witten, he helped get distribution for it. That was one of the ones that I had invested in. He got a distribution deal with Gravitas Ventures. They got it onto Hulu, this little like $1,500 crap. This was another found footage movie, but like the other end of the spectrum. Like, I'll be honest, like, and call a spade a spade. It was not a good movie, but I was like I said, I was trying to break into the industry at this point, so I was
Well,
taking any
really, in the
opportunity.
beginning, you can't like
Yeah,
beggars can't be choosers, kind of
exactly.
thing.
Yeah. Um. So, and he ended up helping to get it distribution, and
Hmm.
it made money. I made back my investment.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, I was pretty pleased with it. One, and I
That's all
mentioned,
like investors want. Like,
yeah,
I think a
absolutely.
lot of indie filmmakers don't really realize this, especially when they do like Indiegogo and all that stuff, that really when people invest or put money into it, they don't want to just put money into it. Now, Indiegogo, I guess that's sort of what they're expected, that they're just
Mm,
donating, that's it. But like real investors, they want an ROI, because otherwise, what's the sort of the point, you know?
right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um. But like I said, I was dabbling with a lot of different stuff. One of the other hats I was wearing for a little bit was I was actually running a horror news website called thebloodshed.com.
I know
And
of it.
yep, one of the things I was tried to get going was like a video on demand site for self-distributed films. And it wasn't very successful, but I did get a decent sized catalog. I had about 150 movies on there at the time of launch. Um, and Adam Witten from Siphono Ventures, who had gotten the distribution deal for that previous movie, he saw how I was able to get this catalog of films together, and he offered to bring me on as at the time freelance, where I would scout for projects and then he would do the actual sales work. And I did that for a little bit, and then two things happened around the same time. One, I got into a car wreck
Sorry
and
about
injured
that.
my. It's all right, call it spade a spade. It's what it is. Roll with the punches. But I did, yeah, I injured my neck and my back, which kind of has limited a lot of my on-set aspirations. Um, I do want to get into voice acting at some point. It's just a matter of getting like of the initial investment in a decent setup. But at the same time, Adam offered to bring me on as an actual partner, a part owner in the sales agency. So yeah, I started doing that more and more. And I've always done sales stuff. Like all my like part-time jobs through college and stuff was always sales. It was always something I really enjoyed. It was something I'm passionate about. I like having like some sort of uh control over like the earnings I was making, like
Right.
as opposed to just minimum wage when I was working at Sears, I was making minimum wage plus commission. So it was, that's always that type of having that type of potential for further earnings was always something that I liked. And having it be a subject like films that I'm very passionate about, especially horror movies, which I love, Adam loves, and they just happen to be the most profitable, popular genre, really, because you can,
For independent film, for sure.
for sure. And I mean, I wouldn't even say just independent. I would say big studio. I mean, you can look at, Avengers, you can look at Avatar and their billions that they made, but they also have to take in consideration how much money it took to make those movies.
Right.
I mean, Avengers might make $1 billion. It took 600 million to make it, plus budgeting, plus the marketing and all that. I mean, James
Imagine if
Cameron was
horror could
saying,
get that big, you know?
yeah, James Cameron was saying that Avatar 2 had to make $2 billion just to break even.
Yep.
Meanwhile, this current Guinness World Record for budget to sales ratio is it's Paranormal Activity currently. Production budget was only $15,000, ended up making 300 million. And obviously there was substantial marketing budget put on top of that after they got their distribution deal. But I mean, as far as like the initial filmmakers and whatnot, like their involvement with it was just a $15,000 production budget. That's all it
Yeah.
was.
I mean,
And
Paranormal Activity is good, but also just recently with Terrifier 2
yeah,
getting like 11 million or something, like,
oh yeah,
and that was only on a
definitely
few
a strong one.
screens, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah,
That's
that's
amazing.
definitely a strong one. That was with Bloody Disgusting. I'm really thrilled that that's one of the companies that we've started working with. I've already placed one film with them. They have not started doing their marketing for it, so I don't think I'm allowed to name the movie yet. And I'm about to close out another deal, and they have interest in a third movie. So it's things are looking very cool with them. I'm very pleased with you know their ability to really give indie films some traction.
That's awesome. I've been seeing a lot of distributors these days for horror really, stepping up their game and doing a great job with that stuff
Absolutely.
or whatever. As a sales agent though, like I mean there are some distributors out there that I mean God bless them. I love them and people use them because they do get, your movies out there, but they don't make a lot of return for your investment, I don't think,
That's right.
and stuff. So do you have to basically look for companies that are doing that? Is that what you
Yes,
usually
and
do?
unfortunately, I mean that the we have a constantly evolving network of distributors. We're always adding and removing companies from it. Some companies that used to perform a certain way suddenly they go through some sort of change in management or something, and they start operating in a different way that no longer really is being profitable for filmmakers. And then some companies are evolving to start well, for one thing I'm seeing in general is actually with some companies. One of the things that's always been a huge pain for indie filmmakers is expense recoupments that a lot of distribution deals have. What I've started seeing more recently in the last year and a half or so is some companies have started doing little to no expense recoupment while still marketing the film. We've had a lot of success with one company in particular that I've been trying to place, honestly, as many movies as I can with, because they have been doing phenomenal work. Let me see here. Yeah, and as I was saying, yeah, some of the companies have started to like offer that even as an option.
Mhm.
Like Indican, for example. I've actually had them where before they would usually have like a large expense cap recoupment. Usually I think it was somewhere between 10 to 20 typically.
On
And
like a
that's
what
thousands.
budget?
Uh Usually anywhere I want to say in the low anything under like the low six, I would say.
Oh, okay.
But
Wait, low six, like low 6 grand, right? Not
low
like,
six digit. Yeah.
okay, six
Yeah.
digit. Okay, interesting.
Um, and then, if there was an MG, that would be on top of that. But I've actually seen them start offering a choice where they will say, "Hey, we can do this MG with expense recoupment and like a 70% cut for the filmmaker, or we can just do no MG, $1 at 50-50 split." I've seen some companies are starting to adapt to that, and that business model has been a lot more uh, successful now that
Mhm.
we've started seeing some companies use it. There had been some companies previously that did the $1 50-50 splits stuff before, but there was also the habit of those types of companies not doing a lot of marketing for the films.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So, okay, so let's for most people who may not be familiar, like sort of with the business side of stuff, because me, I'm learning, not very,
Mm.
I'm not as knowledgeable as I probably should be by this time. But I do what I would like to know kind of like when you first make a film, right? You get like the budget, you
Mm.
finally do they talk to you first or do they talk to you after the film is done?
It really depends. I mean, most of my conversations are, in post-production or when, there's a finalized screener. But I mean, it's a case by case basis. I mean, it's never too early to start the discussion. I'm always happy to give tips, tell people, before they make a mistake, what might be marketable and what might not be. For example, don't use black and white for artistic purposes. Distributors hate that. Please do not do that.
Unless you
If you
just
want,
plan to distribute yourself, yeah. I mean,
right?
it's
Yeah,
ridiculous. I personally fucking love black and white. So
I
it
love art house. I love art house horror. I love the more artistic stuff. But yeah, that's one of the areas where I have to divest my personal what I personally enjoy with what I've seen as marketable, unfortunately.
could people like promote to the person like maybe have a colorized version, but then also sort of also have a black and white version, or
Oh yeah,
is
absolutely.
okay. Because like that could be a really cool like special, feature, on a disc or something is like because that's what I look for because I know you're probably I'm hoping you're a physical media guy,
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
So I absolutely love physical media, as you probably know by now. I've seen like a lot of my posts and stuff. Um I when I look at these things, I kind of don't want like a bare bones, thing. I want special features and added bonus stuff for it, content. A lot of that's probably beyond what you do, right? Like you don't negotiate that stuff, do you?
That's right. No, I don't typically. I mean, if they have something set aside that they think would be uh, add value to the project as a whole as a special feature that could be put on the disc, then it's something that I would like include with the pitch. Anything that I think might add value to the pitch, I'll always bring that up. But I mean, other than that, no, typically.
No, because like your job is to basically just sell the movie,
Right.
right? And so do you do a lot of it through email or do you do a lot of it through like phone engagement?
Both. Phone, email, Zoom calls. We don't do a lot of the film markets for a couple of different reasons. I mean, one, um, we found that a lot of the handshake deals that happen at the markets end up falling through just a lot of the time.
Why is
But in
that
any,
anyway? Like is
I
there a
mean, it's just people they get in touch at the convention, never hear from one party, never hears from the other again.
and you
They
can't
end up
really already have a
the
contract
filmmaker,
ready or anything,
yeah, the
like you have to.
filmmaker gets another offer. There's all sorts of different things. Um, but in any case, I mean, there are sales agencies that do go to those markets, and those sales agencies, they charge expense recoupment similar to distributors. We do not charge any expense recoupment. We have no expenses that we charge back against the filmmaker. We have set contacts at the distributors in our network, and we just reach out directly to those guys either through phone or email, and that stuff is free. So
So I want to talk to you like about the fact that like a lot of your films that you promote, I'm gonna look at your banner here that has like Velocipaster and Ash to the Bone and Don't F in the Woods, too, and Res was it a Resident Evil
yeah,
movie?
George A. Romero's Resident Evil documentary.
Oh, nice. And sh was it Shifted? So,
Shaky,
but
shaky shivers. Oh, shifted. Yeah, that's the other one. That's right. I replaced. I had shaky shivers up on there a couple months ago.
so like with like Velocipaster, like that must have been a pretty good easy sell because it's, crazy movie like that.
I mean, it's that stuff. It's hard to predict what's going to go viral. For one, full honesty, that was handled before I came on as a co-owner. That was handled by my partner Adam. Um, but I mean, I'll tell you right now, they never expected it to like blow up. It's not a movie that had any like big names in it or anything, so it didn't get. I don't believe it got any MG at all. But it has
I met
obviously
the
made
guys.
considerable money.
I met the guys at Texas Frightmare. They premiered the movie there.
Nice.
And yeah,
Yeah, I
my
met
only
them here
problem
when they
was
came to Buffalo.
I was like, "Oh, you got to see it when it came to Buffalo?"
Yeah, there's a small festival here, Buffalo Dreams
Oh yeah,
Film
I know
Festival.
Buffalo Dreams. It's small, but hasn't it gotten bigger?
Um, it's I want to say, I mean, it goes for like a week. But it's usually just a few films a day.
Is that Greg's one?
Yeah, yeah, it's
Gregory Lamberson's?
Greg Lamberson's. Yeah,
Yeah. I love that dude, by the way. Like his
yeah,
movies are
he's
just
awesome.
phenomenal. But yeah, he has I'm like, wait, oh, I know Buffalo Trace because he promotes that all the time, and
Yeah,
I love it. Um, but yeah, I met the guys who did Velocipaster, and yeah, I think they were just happy to like make something that people sort of found some kind of silliness with, like
yeah,
that people liked it.
and it just blew up. It still goes like viral like every so often. Alice Cooper name dropped that in an interview.
How did he? What was the context?
I don't know. He was like mentioning how like he's enjoyed some like really weird like indie films that he's seen recently, and he mentioned Velocipaster.
Oh, did you do the sales for Clownado?
No, that's not one that we handled. I
Okay.
don't believe.
Okay. For some reason, I always put those two together in a way. I think because they came out around the same time. So I just always think like, and they also came out from Wild Eye, I guess, at the time or whatnot. Um, and but yeah, it's amazing that you're able to go out and just put these, work with these filmmakers and get their stuff out. Like that's awesome, you know.
Yeah,
Are
yeah,
you ever
and I love doing it. I love helping the filmmakers. I love giving the film, the best possible opportunity that I see to, make the filmmakers some money so they can keep doing what they love.
Yeah. So what's your like what are your like rules when you're like looking at a film? Do you have certain ones? Like certain
Well, I
rules?
mean, there's things that I, look for that I know add value to it, like obviously names, name actors. Special effects is good. I love right now creature features are really good. And that, that's one thing that's always evolving is like what subgenres are popular. And so I honestly usually once or twice a month I go on to IMDb Pro, and they've got the filters on there so great now. You can literally filtered by like stage of production, and you can even like look at when sort by like when each film was like last updated. So, if I'm doing like once every couple of weeks, I'll look and see like which ones were updated in the past 14 days. And I just send out emails and if I see something interesting.
Very cool. I like that. Um, I'm interested in that stuff because I love, hearing about what it's like to do the business side of this shit. Like I love hearing that you're out there and I mean, and you have to know what's selling right now,
Yeah.
and is there like a way to figure that out, or is it just by talking to the distributors at that time?
Honestly, it's observation, just seeing what's being popular. I mean, some of it is definitely talking with distributors. Like I've had a couple of distributors actually like give me just like a list of subgenres they're looking for. Like I can tell you that, the supernatural stuff is still popular. Anything with Ouija in the name, those are
I'm
the
not
low
kidding.
hanging fruit.
Like Amityville is popular
Yeah,
right now. Like
yeah,
okay, so we got to talk about this because this seems to be the thing. Is like Amityville, Sharks, was it you said Ouija,
yeah. Ouija
um
stuff.
and Ouija stuff, like all of these things seem to be still popular or whatever. Now it's like because the trend of like putting a drug and a
Yep, that's
creature
starting. I
together,
saw what did I see? I saw Cocaine Panther or Cocaine
cougar,
Cougar.
cougar, yeah.
Yeah, I saw a poster for that yesterday, I think.
Yeah, there's Crackoon getting made.
Oh God.
Um, there's tons of these things, and it's because like people are just jumping on the
Yeah, yeah.
trend. Is that what sells? Is the trend?
I mean, it can. I mean, it's low hanging fruit. And
It
I
only
don't
lasts
fault.
for a little bit, I think.
Yeah, and I don't fault anyone for going for it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely one thing I'll look for. I've been trying to get a hold of like some horrible shark movie for a while. I'd love to rep one.
Well, it seems like a lot of those are actually called for by the distributors, it seems. So
Yeah,
you can tell me if this is right or wrong, but like somebody like SRS, who Ron Bonk, who I know, not not really well, but look, I know from Facebook and stuff. But he has like shark movies, he has Amityville movies. Sure, he'll have some crazy, drug, whatever movies, whatever's popular at this time. But he's the one who pays the filmmakers and they go out and then, give it to
right.
him. And so you don't deal with the companies like that, right? Like because
Correct.
unless they
Yeah, operate a little
particularly.
bit differently. So, I mean, I know Ron, and he's an awesome dude. He has, as far as I can tell, he has an awesome company. But yeah, it's not really like a compatible company with like a sales agency in the way we operate.
Yeah, because he's already doing it. He
Right.
is the sales agent, I guess, to himself, which is a cool way to handle it.
Yeah.
How you did so? Velocipaster was Wild Eye. Do they use sales agents?
Yeah, they do use sales agents. Yeah. We used to place films with them pretty regularly early on. They before things started going more towards like the dollar one deals that we're seeing now. Them companies like Wild Eye, Gravitas. I mean, they had the expense recoupments, but at the time they were probably like the best bet a lot of like the micro budget stuff had of making money.
Yeah. So do you deal also like with any of the streaming channels, or is that like what the distributors do?
I mean, distributors do it as well, but yeah, in some cases we do pitch directly. We pitch directly to Shutter, Screambox with Bloody Disgusting. Um, and we do have not explored it too much yet, but we're in the early, hopefully in the early stages of forming a relationship with Tubi.
With Tubi?
Tubi TV for their
Oh, for
originals. I'd
their
love to be
act.
able to pitch them originals.
Yeah, that's awesome. That'll be great. Tubi is like one of my favorites,
Oh
now.
yeah, absolutely. Tubi, the AVOD streaming channels like Tubi, Vudu, those are what's really making the money for a lot of the micro budget stuff.
And they're now owned by Fox from what I understood, right? Like they
I am not sure who currently owns them.
because I thought that was like Fox bought them out or something. That was like the big scare was like everybody was like, "Oh my God, it's gonna change." And like literally it feels like nothing has changed except
I don't believe anything has.
except the originals started coming out. So I'm
Hmm.
wondering if they just got more money, you know?
Yeah, that might be it.
And so they're just like, so it's a better deal because they're not changing their program, I guess, like the way they do everything, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And I can watch like I've been going down. I don't know if you saw my post recently, but I'm going down like a 40s thing. I'm falling in love with that decade. So there's a lot of 40s movies on Tubi, and I'm like, like which is great. A lot of classics and
Oh yeah,
stuff. And then the new indie stuff too. So it's
definitely, yeah.
it's a mixture, and that's what about companies like Arrow or like Vinegar Syndrome?
Those, yeah, I mean, typically they do like re-releases of older films. That's not really anything we work with too much. We mostly work with new releases. The movies that we have, typically what I tell people is like new releases, you want to get a distribution deal within like the first 3 years. Otherwise,
Hmm.
distributors start seeing it as like stale.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So you want to, yeah, I think that might have been a thing. I wanted a company, I forgot what it was, to distribute my film, and then it was like over 3 years, and so I guess they said, they weren't interested or whatever.
Right.
And I was kind of upset, but I was like, and then I did get a company, and I'm not going to say the name because you can figure it out if you watch the movie Scary Story Slumber Party. But my first film, my anthology, I got this company uh to license it, and then I think the company either just like disappeared or something. But the dudes, the messages, emails back from the guy started like bouncing back at me, and I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah,
And
that's not
now
good. That's not
they're
what you want to see.
right, and now they went to Plex. The movie went to Plex, and I
Hmm.
did not. I had a deal with the guy like after I think it was like 3 years, you know, if I didn't want it anymore, or if I didn't want them to distribute it anymore, I would tell them before the 3 years, and they would, and so that was in my contract. So I sent them the thing, and they ended up not getting back, ended up bouncing.
Have
So
you heard anything from Plex?
I messaged them because somebody told me somebody somebody messaged me go, I watched your movie last night, and I go, what movie? You know? And they're like,
Let's talk after this. I'll see if I can dig up some contact information.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I don't want to air anything. It's not not
Yeah, no
saying
worries.
anything about companies, but you know, I appreciate that. But anyway, the point is like sometimes deals and stuff. You got to be careful with distributors because,
Yeah,
it's, that distributor was nice, uh, got me that stuff, but like I never got any money back, you know.
yeah,
And I think a lot of it was the recouping costs and everything. He did tell me that it was going to take, a little bit of time to recoup the costs, and I don't think he ended up recouping the costs anyway. So,
right.
and then I was promised originally physical media, you know, and stuff. So I'm
Never
doing that
happened.
on my own.
Jeez.
But we'll talk about that later.
I
Um,
mean, I will say, physical media is real difficult right now. I mean, a lot of times the best way of doing it is with, online only, on demand sales, where they only print a small number, and they don't print anymore until those are gone. Problem with like Walmart is like those buyback fees that they get is, if they buy like 30,000 units for like the country, there's like a date on that contract that says if those units aren't gone by this certain time, the distributor has to buy those back. And then they end up like being sold for like a quarter in some dollar store bin under cost.
I noticed that. Like I've been buying those, you
Yeah,
know. And those are part of my DVD hauls or whatever, or Blu-ray hauls. Um I sort of understand that, but and that sucks. And
it's
it's
cool seeing your movie on a shelf. It's just a lot of times it's not worth it, honestly.
well, it's not worth it because of what you're saying, but the distributor doesn't want to do it, because they don't want to have to buy back the costs, and
Right.
everything like that and have to distribute it through, Dollar Tree. But I, as a lover of physical media, it drives me crazy to see everything going digital and people are just like, "Oh yeah, digital, you can just turn it on." And I stream like everything. I have like almost every channel. So like I get it. Like I'm not against streaming. I'm just like let's do 50-50, please, Like I still love my physical media.
Got a hilarious movie, one of the ones that we repped early on, called Furry Nights. It's on Tubi TV,
Is
and
it like N
it's a
or
horror
K
comedy.
K or is it nights like N? Like nights like the
Like night, like versus day.
okay. So furry
For
nights. Okay.
Yeah, and that's one that never got a physical release, and I've always been upset about that because I like a physical copy of that one.
You want to own that copy. That's the
Right.
thing. Like, I mean, I'm looking right now, you can't see it because, this screen, but like in front of me is like a whole bunch on my desk is a whole bunch of movies. They're going for our DVD hauls that we do, for
Nice.
Indie Film Cafe. And um I mean, we do 20, so there's like stacks of 20 DVDs, and I still collect DVDs. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I mean,
Yeah,
sometimes that's the only way you
I'll
can
do
still have it.
DVD. I really still don't care DVD versus Blu-ray. I still have no preference, honestly.
I mean, people are snobs a little bit about Blu-ray because it looks better, but like, I mean, if you have a 4K player, they generally make it look the best it's gonna look
Yeah.
anyway. So like, it upscales it, from DVD, so it doesn't bother me, whatever. I don't care. I want, as many movies. Some of these, like, like I bet there's a Blu-ray for like Fools Rush In, the Matthew Perry movie, but do I really want that on Blu-ray? Like
Have you ever done Horror Pack?
I did, yes. I used to do hardback. Yeah.
Yeah, we actually we place movies directly with them sometimes.
Nice. So are they the exclusives or are they just like the only?
Uh, they're obviously they're not like the only deal you want. So they have to fit into whatever rights the main distributor has. So they don't work with every deal. But whenever the distributor is okay with it, they're a nice little bit of padding. They usually do like I think the last movie we placed with them, they did like 1,100 units.
Oh
Uh,
wow. Really?
yeah, so yeah, I mean, at a few dollars, like it's like a couple bucks, like couple bucks a pop, so it's not bad.
Okay. Interesting. I like
And
them.
they try to do like one like micro budget movie in each of their packs.
Um, yeah, I've never noticed that before, but I think when I was doing it, they weren't doing that, And this was like pre-COVID.
I
So
got
this was
you.
like 2018 or something, And we were doing that as part of a like unboxings, things for YouTube. And we are unboxing horror packs, which everybody else was doing anyway. So it was sort of not getting as much attention. But I mean, we were having fun because we were buying horror packs and we bought them. Like we would spend
Mhm.
25 bucks or 20 bucks or whatever it was, and we would buy the horror packs and have like three or four DVDs or Blu-rays or whatever. I would do the Blu-rays, my partner would do the DVDs, and so we'd have something different to talk about, you know. Plus, he didn't care either way whether
Mhm.
I wanted Blu-rays because I do want to, do that. But some of them were great, and some of them were schlocky, and whatnot, and that you never know what you're gonna get until that month,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And it was a fun little thing. It's just sadly it's not something I can afford at the moment to do every month. But
See,
I'll
I'm not always super into, I don't really care like Blu-rays versus DVDs, but I'm a sucker for like limited edition stuff. So I really love like the horror pack because they actually, uh, I think that was what the micro budget one they would put out would actually be like a horror pack limited edition. It would have like a different cover than what you'd usually see. And I have a whole shelf on my in my living room of just like the horror pack limited editions.
Yeah, one of the ones I remember getting was Pieces,
Yep,
movie
yep. I think
Pieces.
that's one of them. Yeah,
Yeah, and it was a different Blu-ray cover than I've seen before, and I
they
really
did one. You're talking about like the old black and white stuff. You're saying you're getting into the 40s. They put out like a really nice original Invisible Man with like a slip cover that glowed in the dark. It was really cool.
whoa. They're stepping up their game. That's awesome. Um,
Yeah, I liked it. It was a really cool one. It was like black background with green uh shaping.
so what we're saying is people need to, need to go check out Horror Pack at horrorpack.com and, you know, I mean, because it's only, was it like,
I think it's like 20 bucks,
yeah, 20,
something like that.
25 bucks. I think it's 20 bucks for like a DVD and 25 bucks for,
Yeah, that sounds right.
Blu-rays. Um, and if whatever one you want, you get three or four of them each, and it's fantastic. It's definitely worth it. I just
Yeah, definitely.
unfortunately
Yeah.
I'm right now I'm going into the boutique Blu-rays, so I'm just buying way too many uh of those, and those cost more, and stuff.
Yeah.
That's the reason, but like Arrow, Scream Factory,
Right.
all that stuff. So, all the ones you were saying before do more of the
Was it
older
Scream Factory
films.
that did that what was it, the 50th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead?
Probably that sounds about
With like
right.
the box and like all the different memorabilia. I have that one. It's on my shelf out there. I love that one.
Probably. That sounds like Scream Factory. I know, what is it? Criterion did Night of the Living Dead on 4K and
Nice.
stuff. So, I mean, I don't have that yet. I have the Blu-ray of it,
Mhm.
So eventually I'll upgrade, but I mean, it's it's, there's not much new stuff added to that, So other than the fact that it's 4K, I'm not in a rush, you know.
Right.
Um, but so you collect then,
Yes.
you know. Um, how big is your collection? Is it pretty huge?
Uh, less than 1,000. Probably I want to say 600
Or
range.
are you very picky?
I can be. And I did just clean out the collection a little bit. I was running out of shelf space. Um, yeah, and I used to have more. When I moved out here a decade ago from Maine, I had to fit everything I owned into the back of a VW Bug.
Mm.
So I had to get rid of a lot of stuff. I had to get, including a lot of my DVDs. I had a huge horror figurine collection, like NECA and McFarlane. And I had a life-size Jason Voorhees animatronic. My
Wait,
it
you
usually
sold that?
I had to. There was no way it was going to fit in the back of my VW.
You could have
My
like put it in like shipped it out to yourself or something.
shipping on that. It wasn't a huge loss for me as far as like financial. It's a an animatronic that retailed for 300 originally. my friend bought it at some like discount warehouse for like $100, and then he sold it to me for 20 when he got bored of it. So best
Interesting.
$20 I ever spent to this day.
That's great. But yeah, that's understandable. I traveled, from Virginia all the way to road tripped all the way to California,
Jeez.
LA, and I was in a van, it was me and my partner, my co-host partner, and we were traveling across the thing, and I had all my movies pretty much in my back. Like I took, okay, not all of them. I left some at the studio that I had, but like I took as many as I possibly could. And I did not regret that at all. Even though leaving them in the car because I didn't want to like bring them all up to the thing like for the first couple months and left a lot of the DVDs. Nobody robbed my freaking van because just because it looked like crap and they were just like, there's nothing in there. So I don't know. I
Thankfully.
all I know is like I was worried I was gonna come home and like it would be broken into and all my movies would
Yeah,
be gone. But
it'd be
like what are
awful.
they gonna do with movies? Sell them
Yeah,
like on eBay? I mean, I don't know. But it
yeah,
was it was cool having like I love collecting. So I
yeah,
love having everything.
definitely.
I'm more of a hoarder than I realized. Sounds like you're sort of a hoarder. You're not really like
Yeah, I
you're
mean, I collect, collect anything horror related. So there's a lot of movies. I got memorabilia. I got a lot of posters with autographs. Um, I got my own office where I put up a lot of just the movies that I have copies of that I've personally worked on. Um, a little bit of everything.
Was the pandemic hard for you as a sales agent?
Yeah, I mean a little bit. There was definitely a slow period. It wasn't during uh most of the pandemic. It was like towards the end and after, because like during the pandemic there were still people that had movies in post-production. They
Okay.
were still working on those. But then yeah, we hit a drought where like yeah, there was no longer any movies in post-production waiting.
Right, because and then most people weren't making movies
Right,
really.
right.
Like it took a little bit of time before people, except people like, I don't know if you know him, but James Balsamo was constantly still making stuff. I don't know how he was doing it, but he was
We we repped one movie called House Monster that was a neat little micro budget made during the pandemic. It was single actress within a house.
nice. Nice. I actually watched one of those movies and it was called Lexi.
Hmm.
And I interviewed, she was on the show like a few episodes ago. And Victoria Vertuga, who made it, I mean, a lot of it was because of, they wanted to make a movie, but they can't, they couldn't. So they pretty much just did everything they could. And I love that. Like I thought that
Yeah,
was genius, but
I think
unfortunately, like now you can actually go out and do it. So, you know. Hey everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode. Well, actually, welcome back, period. 'Cause I already did this introduction, but we had a slight little issue, little mishap, and so on my end, and it just we had to decide to do it another time, and so this is like I think like 2 or 3 weeks after, know.
couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, so if we look a little different, it's because we've gotten older, by a couple weeks. So I don't know. I just want to say because we wanted to wrap this up, sort of thing, and kind of make sure to talk about some different stuff. But you just gave me some news. Are you allowed to say anything about this news like that?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, because you
basically just what
said
I
it.
said in my post. Yeah, I just finished the our second deal with Bloody Disgusting that we brokered. Has ink is finally on the paper. It's been signed and finalized. So very excited about that. Very big movie. They're going to be giving it a lot of special treatment.
Oh, awesome. So you must that's exciting, period, because Bloody and Disgusting is probably the number one, uh maybe tied with Dread Central as the number one horror news outlet, these days. And they're doing, I think both are doing distribution, if I'm correct. I think even Dread
Yes,
Central is doing that.
Dread Central is doing distribution through Epic, and Bloody Disgusting is doing distribution through Cinedigm, which they had a merger. I'm not sure really if it was a merger or if Cinedigm bought them. I'm not sure what the details were. All I know is Cinedigm and Bloody Disgusting are now one company.
It's either a merger or a takeover.
Something like that. I mean, I doubt it was a takeover. I'm sure if it was a buyout, it was a negotiated
In negotiation. Yeah,
buyout.
it wasn't a hostile takeover. You know, um, you know, it's interesting to know that because like a lot of companies are sort of combining forces and taking brands and different things. So the Bloody Disgusting brand is a big deal,
It
you know.
certainly seems like it's more of a merger because I know that like Brad Mishka is still involved very heavily with the actual website side of things. So it really just seems like they're going to handle like the media side and Cinedigm is handling like distribution and they're just going to kind of, coordinate in that way.
Oh, interesting. All right. Well, I like that. I like that they're busy doing stuff. And I mean, I've always loved Bloody Disgusting. They've always been super sweet about anything that I have. Right now, I have nothing to give them. But if I did, they'd be very, very sweet about it. So I adore them. I hope the distribution stuff continues to really, you know, get bigger for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I'm really excited to see what they can turn Screenbox into, eventually. It's already looking, a lot better than it used to.
right. It's funny because I used to be part of that. When it was like, I don't know how much it is now, but it was $5 back then, when I first started using Screenbox. And after a while, I didn't see anything new or interesting or whatever. So I kind of asked to whatever you had to get it taken off and everything. But I might come back to Screenbox. I don't know. There's so much digital content out there, so many streaming channels and platforms.
Well, I know the first movie that we brokered with Blade Disgusting is up on Screenbox right now. They just had their release. It's called Shifted.
Shifted,
They're comparing it to Night of the Living Dead. So
the original
it's
Night of the Living Dead.
original Night of the Living Dead. As far as like tone, it's not actually a zombie movie. It's a creature feature, but it's very character centric, very heavily focused on like the actual the actors inside this domicile while like the world falls apart around them.
So what is the most marketable subgenre for horror right
The
now?
creature features right now, I would say yes.
So if you had a creature
Um,
feature, you're most likely getting bought.
yeah, I mean, I can get some really good deals right now for creature features without even ones that don't even have any sort of like recognizable names attached to them. If they got like decent effects, or at least they handle their camera cleverly enough to disguise poor effects, you know, there's definitely a market. They're very very popular right now.
Is found footage popular at all?
Found footage definitely has its fan base, but it also has a lot of people that just outright hate it. Unfortunately, I love it myself, but it can be difficult for distribution. It definitely doesn't make it impossible, but it doesn't help the film.
So if it were a creature feature, like
If you're doing a
found
creature
footage
feature
film.
found footage, yeah, that's potential. There's potential there.
Yeah, that's interesting because like a lot of after a while, because filmmakers need to do something different, or whatever, they tend to try to mix the subgenres together, you know.
It just reminded me. You remember when they were kicking around the idea of doing the new installment of Friday the 13th as found footage?
Oh my God, yes.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I think wasn't who came up with that idea? Like
I'm
somebody
not sure. That was one of the movies that they were thinking about doing. That'd be interesting if they kind of revisit that idea in the upcoming TV series that's going to be on Paramount. Maybe like do like a single episode in that style.
that would be kind of cool. Like I can't think I'm just thinking like Friday the 13th as if it were like The Office. I'm like thinking of like docu style where like people are like, yeah, so I don't really like this Jason guy and he's sort of annoying me right now. And then like the next guy that's being interviewed is like looking at Jason like scared to death or whatever like and then you know that kind of thing because like the TV show is set in the before he
Right.
actually drowned. I don't know if they're gonna set it in was it 50s or 60s?
Something like that, I
Something
think.
like that, because
Yeah.
it was the 80s that we saw everything, and then when they were singing Kumbaya, I think that might have been the 60s. I don't know, because it was so confusing the first movie. I'm not gonna lie. Um, I remember my dad watched it with me when I was a kid,
Mhm.
and everything, and he already knew of Jason, the hockey mask wearing killer. So he was
Right.
like, "Why is this woman getting into a car with a guy in a mask?" Because you don't see the person that she goes in the car with and
Right.
everything. And
Yeah.
I'm like, that would be hilarious. Like now that I'm feeling like years later, I thought of that. I was like, that would be a
Yeah,
great skit
that's
or something.
hilarious. Yeah, just picturing like the faceless the person that you're seeing through their eyes the entire time just as Jason in that movie. That would be funny. Just
Yeah, he's
people
just like,
having conversations. Oh, hi.
"Hi, how are you doing?" And Jason's like, because he doesn't talk. I I don't know why they made Jason mute. You know, even though what in part three he wasn't mute
I think
or
he made
two
some noises. He didn't speak or anything.
he didn't speak, but he did
He
make
made
noises.
noises.
It was
Yeah.
part two where he was like getting stuff thrown at him, and he's like, ah,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
he was such a clumsy idiot, but like
And he
because
used
he
to be
was
able
a
to run
freaking
when he
child.
was before he got chopped up in four. He used to be able to run. Everyone forgets that.
Wait, do you think part four was the reason why? Does
Well,
he
yeah, in part four, that's when he gets killed by Corey Feldman's
Corey
character.
Feldman?
Yeah, Tommy, or is it Tommy?
Yeah, Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy, Tommy Jarvis. There we go. I was thinking Doyle, but that's Halloween.
Yeah,
Uh,
Jarvis and Tommy Doyle need to meet at some point.
yeah, so yeah, Tommy Jarvis, he kills when he like the kid Tommy Jarvis kills Jason. Basically, like my head canon is that Jason was like alive in like two through four, and then Tommy killed him, and then we had the copycat in five, and then from six on, then he was the zombie.
Okay, that sort of makes sense. Wait, he was alive?
That was my yeah. I mean, they had theorized about it in the in I think campfire scene of part two or three,
Well,
one of
right,
those
but
two,
part two makes sense. But
the camp counselor is telling the campers how he says that Jason wasn't really dead and he was living in the woods and saw his mother decapitated.
yes, that makes sense for part two, right?
Yeah,
But then he got killed in part two.
no, he came back. He like got injured. He took a hatchet to the shoulder, but
I thought
at
it was
the
a
end
hatchet to
he
the head,
comes.
but I could be
No,
wrong.
that's three. He takes a hatchet to
Okay.
the side of the head at the end of three.
Okay.
Um,
But then he
yeah,
dies in three. How can he come back in four?
I mean, people survive weird head wounds. I guess it's possible you could survive a hatchet to the head. I don't know. Depends on where you take the hatchet.
That's
I
true.
know. I remember a story I read like when I was a kid. I had like this book of like gross science facts and stuff. And one of them
Right.
was about this like guy who used to work on like this railroad back in like the 40s or the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And they would pound push dynamite down these pipes to basically blast underground, and they would use this ramrod to push the dynamite down. And this one guy, he was pushing dynamite down the pipe, and it exploded and sent the ramrod through his head all the way through, and he survived. It like dramatically changed his personality. He became like an absolute asshole to everyone in his life, but like he survived, and he would like go to the bar, and he would just sit there, and he would put the steel rod back into his head and sit there for people to give him money as like a sideshow attraction.
So you became a sideshow freak after that.
Pretty much,
Oh my
yeah.
goodness. That's crazy. I don't know, man. I'm okay, well, I guess I can get by that Jason did that. Whatever, because it is what it is with Jason. Jason's one of those characters that like, I mean, Michael's been shot, and all these other things, and supposedly he's unstoppable and still human, or whatever,
my my actual headcanon for Jason is a little bit controversial because some people downright hate it. And that is that um basically the Jason being alive 2 through 3 through 2 through 4, that's the simplified version.
hmm
Are you familiar with the comic book Freddy versus Jason versus Ash?
I know of it. I did not ever read it.
It's actually based on an actual screenplay that they wrote as an official sequel to Freddy versus Jason. It just they couldn't clear the rights for Ash to make it happen, so they adapted it into a comic book. But it's literally based on an official screenplay for a sequel. So in my
But
head, it's
yeah,
canon.
okay, I guess they can do it as a comic
Oh
because
yeah,
there's
they
no
can do all sorts of
rights.
crossovers with comics.
Yeah.
They do horror crossovers all the time. So fun, the
I
stuff
like
they
they
do in
did. I
horror
like
in the
some like
comics.
Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles or something, kind of thing.
Oh, there's some really exciting ones. Don't know who's calling me, but they can call me back later. Um, but yeah, that's so basically the idea that what they establish in Freddy versus Jason versus Ash is that both Freddy and Jason are products of the Necronomicon.
Okay.
Freddy basically they say that the dream demons that gave Freddy his power are from the Necronomicon, and Jason is basically just like a super deadite. But the idea is that Pamela somehow got a hold of the book after Jason drowned and brought him back. But something like didn't go right and she thought it failed. And he just kind of wandered the woods as like this undead freak. So he wasn't truly alive in 2 through 4. When you think about it, it makes perfect sense. He survived the hatchet right through the chest. He survived the axe through the head. Those are wounds that would not kill a deadite. What killed him in 4? Dismemberment. What
Dismemberment. That's
what
right.
brought him back in 6? A lightning bolt. The same thing that resurrected Evil Ash in Army of Darkness.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. You know, hmm. I guess that's how they like. That's how they kind of justified things
That
because
was Adam Marcus, I think his name was. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain
Adam
fart.
Marcus, the guy who
Director,
did Jason
yeah,
Goes to Hell.
Jason Goes to Hell. Yeah, that was his brain, his head canon when he put the Necronomicon in the Voorhees house.
Nice. Oh God, he did, didn't he?
Yep,
And then
Easter egg.
later he had Jason or
Yep,
Freddy's hand pull up to grab the mask. So
and that
obviously
set
he
up
was
the
thinking
Freddy
of the
versus Jason.
sequel. What?
Yep, and that set up Freddy versus Jason. Oh,
Right.
that's a long one because I mean that was a movie that was they tried. I don't know if you know. Do you know like the whole story of
So
Freddy
there
versus
was a
Jason?
video on YouTube that kind of had like a lot of the
It's
history of that.
crazy. They first tried to make that movie after Friday the 13th Part 6. But back then, Jason was owned by Paramount and Freddy was owned by New Line. And there's never been an instance of two studios being able to get along to like, I mean,
Because you'd have to do a
Sony,
50-50
Sony and
split.
Sony and Disney kind of went with the Spider-Man in the Marvel universe.
Hmm.
But I mean, that's like a special circumstance regarding like rights that
Yeah,
already
and
like
they're
belong
not
to
like,
Disney.
MCU's asked, like, or Disney has asked constant times, like,
Right.
can we have like this person and this person come over? And they're like, nope, you only got, and now they're gonna have Venom, I guess, because
Yeah.
Venom left a little bit of his thing there. So
And the big problem was that they couldn't agree on anything. They each wanted their guy to win, basically.
right.
So they finally, after Friday the 13th 8 didn't perform super well, Paramount finally sold the rights. New Line had both characters, but it still took them years and years and years to get a script together that was finally something that they thought was worth it. So the thing is, Freddy versus Jason was in production at the time that Jason Goes to Hell was made. And Adam Marcus knew that. So
Yeah.
that's why he did a lead in. And
Neat.
then Jason X was just made in the interim because it was still taking them so long that they were just like, we should put out something.
Right. Which is so funny
So
because
they
that's
set it in the future so it wouldn't interfere with the Freddy versus Jason that they already knew was coming out.
it did, but at the end of it, didn't it like set up that he was in Crystal Lake or something? So, like, if you look at Jason X, it does set up for Freddy versus Jason because in Jason X, even though I guess he gets his mask back or whatever, you know,
Well, Jason X is way in the future. He ends up on like the new Earth.
the new Earth.
Yeah, Earth 2. Yeah,
I
it's
wish X
they
had done
actually had
well
a
enough
series
where
they
they
had
could
a
have made a sequel, you
they
know.
did they had a series of novels that actually continued that story. I never read them myself, but I know they exist.
Yeah, what is it? So the yeah, so was it Jason X was actually the first Jason movie I saw in the theaters because when I was young, I didn't wasn't allowed to go to the theaters and watch it.
That must have been you must that must have been just a very limited run because I thought that Jason X was direct to DVD.
No, it was in the theaters. It was an AMC. I know that
Hmm.
for a fact. I went there to see it. So I don't know if it played in my local theaters, but it played in Hampton, which is like 40 minutes away from me, 30 minutes away. So I went down there and saw it with my friend who was not that into horror as much as I am, but he loved it. He thought it was hilarious. So we watched it like twice to see it twice in the theater, you know. And then I saw was it Freddy versus Jason like two or three times in the theater.
Nice.
And I only saw the remake once because it's
Of
okay.
which one?
Of the
Freddy,
of
the Freddy remake
Jason.
wasn't great. I honestly thought the Friday the 13th remake was pretty good.
It had
Um,
moments. It was made by the guys who did Jason X, written by them. Um, and I think somebody was telling me the other day that the movie would have been better had the story focused on the first group of kids instead of the
hmm.
second group of
Yeah,
kids.
that was probably the longest, like, that was the furthest into the movie, at least up until that point in my life, that I had ever seen the title put into the movie. That was like
Right.
a good 20 minutes when we had the title card.
But you're not really supposed to do that, you know? Technically, you're supposed to get the title card in about 8 to 10 minutes in at least. That, a good example of that is like Scream, or whatever, where, we get the first kill, but the first
Also,
kill should not last us like forever, you
one
know?
of the I'm also a fan of it because I'm a huge Supernatural fan, and
Me
Jared's
too.
in it. I
Actually, I
thought it was
wasn't a
probably
fan of Supernatural when that came out first.
oh no, I actually that was yeah, same with me. I binged Supernatural probably like when the first 6, 7 seasons were already out.
Yeah, I think mine was six. So it was about 2012, and I only know that because I was binge watching the show on my way to when I was moving to Baton Rouge. and stuff. So I think I was up to whatever season it was or so, which was a season six, you know?
When when that Friday the 13th remake was coming out, they actually tried to do a Jason Voorhees cameo for Supernatural. They were gonna have they were gonna have Sam having a nightmare about being chased by Jason through the woods.
That would have been awesome. Or even you don't have to have Jason, just anybody wearing a mask. Remember there was that movie Bloody uh Bloody
Bloody murder.
some what Bloody Murder? And they
Yep,
had
the
a
two of
guy
them.
in a hockey mask, but it wasn't the same hockey mask.
Trevor Morehouse.
Yeah.
The
Terrible. Well, the first one was so bad, but the second one had Tiffany
second one
Shepis,
actually
so
was pretty decent. They definitely increased their budget
they
over the
increased their
second.
budget and they had more fun. I think
Yeah,
that was my biggest problem with the first is it wasn't nearly as fun as the second one. Second one, it's almost like they're kind of poking fun at
same one with
themselves.
Psycho Cop. First one was really rough. Then the second one, the one that actually takes place in the office building,
Yeah, I own that
that
one
one is so funny.
with that Adam Rifkin directed that one, and yeah, it was fantastic. So it's a fun, goofy movie, like it's not meant to like, and that's what I like the 80s and whatnot had some really fun, goofy idea, like
I
Intruder.
love weird stuff. I love the weird stuff.
Intruder, the movie that Scott Spiegel directed, that
Right.
Sam Raimi was in, and everything that took place inside their Walnut Lake market that they all worked at, and stuff. And just the fact that, you know, for that movie, because of that movie, Lawrence Bender, the producer, met Quentin Tarantino, and everything. And I mean, we kind of owe Scott Spiegel, a little bit of gratitude toward, for him finding, Tarantino and Lawrence Bender together,
For sure.
which, yeah, worked really well. And then later, was a Scott Spiegel directed, like From Dusk Till Dawn, two So Bad that Bruce Campbell, Tiffany Amber Thiessen, and a scene, so that made it better. And what was the other one I loved is Hostel 3, I guess he
Oh,
directed. Yeah,
I
he
don't know.
directed Hostel
I
3.
did see the third one. I saw the third one like once.
Yeah, I
What?
mean,
Not a huge fan of the Hostel series.
it's an acquired taste for people who like, you know, and once again, I don't know if we discussed this before or I've discussed this with many people, I think. A lot of people hate the term torture porn, because it's just not a it was coined by one person and blown up, That's what I've been told, and I kind of
I think it was a literally, I forget it. It might have actually been coined for Hostel. It was either Hostel or Saw, I think.
I think it was Hostile, and then all of a sudden it got blew up. It's the same thing as I hate that term elevated horror. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't like it. And when Scream put that in there, I'm like, no, now you're just making all these pretentious people like feel like they're right, for saying, because I don't mind movies like Midsummer or Hereditary or um, you know, whatever, right? I don't mind A24 horror. I think that they have
Yeah,
some
great
pretty good
movies.
movies.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but I don't like people going, well, I like them because I'm so much better than
I
everybody
just
else.
call stuff like that art house horror,
Art house
personally.
horror, that would be good. That's okay. That
Yeah.
doesn't
And
sound pretentious to,
right.
you know. Sounds like somebody called it that, instead of elevated horror sounds like, oh, we coined our own phrase for how much we're elevated toward everybody. So that's my opinion on it. I don't know. Um, so real quick, I think we're gonna wrap it up in a bit, but can you give us like a day in the life of a sales agent?
Oh, I mean, usually it's mostly going through emails and making phone calls. I mean, a better idea of what I do would probably be just giving you like an idea of like the process for like maybe a single film.
Okay.
So basically what I do is now that it used to be more that I would go looking for movies. And I still do. Every couple of weeks I go on to IMDb Pro and I look up movies in post production and I can actually sort now. I love their filters that they have. I can now sort by actually like the most recent updates. So I can actually look literally at films that were just updated in the last 2 weeks. That's what I usually do. I usually look every 2 weeks at the movies that were updated in the last 2 weeks before. But now the scales are actually starting to tip where more people are actually starting to come to me, which, is awesome. That means that, we're really starting
Word of
to make
mouth.
some waves. Absolutely. So basically once a either, they come to me or I go to them, once contact has been made, usually the first step is I take a look at a screener. I mean, I can give generalized ideas going off of trailers, things like that. I can walk people through our process, but I can't obviously give like more specific estimates or potential for a film until I see it.
Okay.
Um, and then once I take a look at the screener, what I do is I usually set up a Zoom call with the filmmaker. We jump on a call to discuss, go over my thoughts for the movie. And also, I always make sure to go over what their goals for the movie are, like what they want to see in a release, if they have particular things they want to see in an offer, if they have certain platforms they want to try to get the film onto. I want to try to make sure that what I think I can do with the movie lines up with what they want for their film. Because if it just doesn't line up, then nobody's happy.
Hmm.
Um, and if I think that they, maybe they are new to the industry, maybe their expectations are unrealistic. I'll try to temper them, tell them what I think I can do, and just say, is this something that works for you? Is this something that you could see being a positive, beneficial, possibility for your movie? And then once I'll sign them on, and our agreements take no pay up front. Um, Sales agent, I've heard of a few sales agencies that charge up front. I am very, very leery of sales agencies like that because I mean, a sales agent can't guarantee results. So why we get the way I get paid is I get paid based off of how the filmmaker gets paid. That way, it's in my best interest to make that filmmaker as much money as possible because the more money they make, the more money I make. It's a
And they'll
win-win
want to work with
situation.
you if you make them a lot of money.
Absolutely. So what I'll do is I'll go around. So once I have them signed on, like I said, we don't charge anything up front. We also don't charge any expenses. Some sales agents they charge back on expenses, like some distributors do, because they go to things like markets, stuff like that. We generally don't go to markets. Honestly, at some point, I might go to a market purely for networking. But in general, we find that the handshake deals that happen at a lot of markets,
I think you
it,
said
that
this on the last
I believe
one.
I might have mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I go directly to the distributors in our network. Now, depending on the movie, I might go to different distributors that, might be more aligned with that type of film. For instance, like I have one distribution company called Cleopatra. Before they started doing film distribution, they were in music. They were a record label, which I believe they still do that as well. So they have a lot of contacts in those types of circles. Um, the name of the movie is I'm having a brain fart, but we had one of the movies that we repped had I believe it was one of the musicians from Puddle of Mud
Oh,
was
nice.
actually starring in it. So because of that, I knew that Cleopatra would probably be a good movie to a good company to potentially see if they had any interest because they would be very well equipped to handle a movie like that, because not only do they have the networking in the movie side of things, but they also have the networking in the music industry. And when we did get a really good deal with Cleopatra for that film with upfront money, and yeah, they marketed it to both industries. They actually had banners for the film up on it was a huge rock and roll website. I forget the name of it. It was I think it's the biggest rock and roll. It's like to the rock and roll genre what Bloody Disgusting is to horror
Oh,
movies.
it's not like Rolling Stones or anything.
No, no, they're not purely rock and roll anymore. They're more like just general interest, I think.
Really?
They, oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, they just do interviews with general celebrities.
Wow, what a that that's just sad now, because everybody wanted to be on the cover of Rolling Stone, and now it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal in the
I
music
think it's
industry.
still pretty prestigious, but
Uh, it's like when Playboy decided not to do Playboy stuff anymore. It's like, who
that
cares?
didn't
You
last
know,
long. I think they changed their mind about
they went
that.
back to,
Yeah, I think they did go back to it, and then Hugh died. So now I don't think that's a thing anymore at all.
you don't think, well, I mean,
Is Playboy still around? I have no
I
idea.
don't know. I never hear anybody
I have
talk
no
about
idea.
wanting to be a Playboy bunny anymore. Um, it's not, back then it was a big deal. Now it's just importance on the internet, so people can see
Yeah.
people all everywhere naked. There's OnlyFans, so like nobody cares about, nudity anymore. It's not a
Print
big
is
deal.
dying.
Print is dying. That's true.
Print is
Everybody had to go
dying.
digital. I was actually talking to my friend the other day, and I said, there's no P in the P and A, P and A anymore. It's so now it should be DNA. I mean, because it's digital and advertising, it's
Yeah.
not print and advertising anymore. So, but that he was like, you remember, I was like, DNA? That's that's going to be very confusing, but whatever. That's what it should be now, that's how, I mean, I'm sure they'll still call it print and advertising because it's what it's been known as. Um, Anywho, yeah, that sounds wonderful. So it's
Um,
just a,
think
what
I
was that?
kind of went off. I think I went off on a tangent before finishing the what I
Okay.
was. Yeah. So basically, what we do is if it's depending on the movie, I will. Yeah, I got off on the tangent talking about Cleopatra, and the
The
music
Rolling
movie.
Stones.
Yeah.
So,
So we'll shop the movie around. I'll take in offers, and what we'll do is I usually wait until I have all responses back before I always say, wait until you hear from everybody before you sign anything. You never know what's going to happen.
hmm.
Ideally, we get multiple offers and I can play them off of each other, to get, a bidding war going.
So you've
If
actually done bidding wars.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Um, uh, I haven't done as big of ones as I dream of doing. But yeah, between like two or three companies going back and forth a few times for sure, absolutely. This last movie I just signed with finalized with brokering with Bloody Disgusting. That was originally almost went to Tubi TV. Bloody Disgusting ended up matching them at the last, very, very last minute.
So wait, so once they match them, that you would go with the company that matched them, or
In the case of this, yes, because Tubi TV is pretty much straight buyout with no real possibility of any further earnings after that. Bloody Disgusting does have further potential. So they offered an MG as large as the full buyout that Tubi TV was offering. Now that MG will have to get paid back out of expenses before out of the sales before we see anything further. But I mean, it's bloody disgusting. There's definitely potential for further earnings for sure.
that's an interesting. Wow, that's cool. I was not. Yeah, I didn't know that Tubi bought out, but I'm wondering like
Yeah, I mean
they must have like was it they have contracts with the people. So when their contracts are up, because as you probably know, if you watch Tubi, sometimes they'll say, "Oh, by the way, this will be leaving in 6 days," right?
when I say buyout, I don't mean that I'm using the wrong word there. I don't mean that they own the film indefinitely. I mean that they're doing like a straight licensing fee.
Right.
We pay you this set amount of money. We have the film for this set of time. We don't owe you anything further.
Well, so once that goes, once they're done with their contract, with their deal for that time, say they say, "Oh, we have it for like 6 years." After 6 years, it goes back to
Yeah,
the
you
to
can
the
go in
original.
for
What?
sure. But I will say that re-releases are very, very difficult. There are not a lot of companies that will take films that have already had previous releases.
Especially like if they are a company like Netflix or something who charges and everything, and they're buying something, they wouldn't want to buy something that's already been watched for free, right? Like that would
Yeah,
totally
I mean
make
it depends on the movie, but in most cases, I mean, if a movie's been out available for several years, the and the term ends for that distribution agreement, another distributor is going to view that film as having its market already been saturated.
it's been used,
Right.
like it's used up. It's whatever used goods. Um, that's interesting because then, see, this is why I don't like digital. This is why I don't like this because that makes it really more difficult. Like if people don't want to re-release something, then how are people going to see it?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I just say I just try to get at least small physical releases for as many films as possible. And that's really the way to go is just to honestly like the brick and mortar stuff is so difficult to make money off of. But I mean, you know, just selling DVDs, Blu-rays online, I mean, that's very feasible still. And do very small printings, don't, do more than you can reasonably sell so they don't end up being sold for 50 cents in dollar stores.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that too. Um, so okay, so what about YouTube? Like, they have the YouTube pay like, rent for $4 or buy for like 15, or whatever kind of deals. Do you do that too, or is that something that gets done by another company?
um some I think some of our movies have probably ended up for rent on distribution through some of the companies we placed them with. I'm not really sure on which ones. That's really not like a huge platform for movies. um Not very large, I wouldn't say. um it's definitely not going to make much of a difference on the check.
Right. I'll tell you something after this thing, but I don't want to. We had that discussion before, and I want to leave that to
I mean, the thing is, I mean, when you think about it, if it's through a actual distribution deal,
right,
through an actual distribution company, that's not the platform that they're going to be marketing the film on. I mean, they'll list it along with everything else, but that's not the one they're going to be pushing hard because that's not where they'll make most of their money.
right. Well, I mean, most of the days it's Tubi makes.
Yep.
Well, they won't make the money, but Tubi does really well,
Yeah.
for views and
Tubi,
stuff.
Voodoo, do really, really well.
There you go. So Voodoo, I never thought Voodoo. I never use it.
Yeah,
So
I didn't either. And that's the thing. I don't really know personally anyone that uses it either, but I've been seeing some of our films have been doing really well on there. So
So there
someone's using it.
are people who are like, maybe they're just looking up horror and then they just stumble across your stuff on Vudu.
I believe that they have some movies structured similarly to Tubi, where they are free to watch with just ads. They have multiple ways to watch movies on Vudu. I
Right.
believe they have that structure. They have straight up renting. You can purchase movies digitally. They have a lot of different options.
Awesome. I love that. Well, I think that about wraps it up. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to mention or get out there?
Nothing off the top of my head.
Yeah, so thank you so much, John. I definitely need to have you come back again, but like for another full episode where, we don't have to have a break or whatever, and do that. Unless that becomes a running thing, which I really hope not, just because that was a little bit annoying. It was my internet issue. So,
And no worries. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
but
happy to come back anytime.
yeah, and talk about the stuff that you're doing then, because you're going to continue to be doing big things, it seems,
Yeah,
you know,
hopefully
like
that's the
part of
hope.
bidding wars, man. I'm so jealous. I've always seen it like on Entourage or something, and I'm like, I want to be a part of a bidding war. But anyway, everybody, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Join us next week for another episode. I'm not sure exactly who's coming on, but and check it out then, next Tuesday. Until then, everybody, bye.